Hello and welcome to my 4K re-review of the Spyderco Delica. This is part of my series where I re-review my older knife and tool videos in the 4K resolution. This knife is one of my favourite knives, this Spyderco Delica 4, and I've got two examples here, one in the lovely orange and in the purple. You can get it in brown, like this Endura, and you can get it in the blue, again like this Endura. And the dark green, the British Racing green, is the one that's reserved for getting it with the ZDP 189 blade steel, which is a super steel. When I first bought this, it cost me £63, and that was about 5 years ago now. I think I actually did the review back on the 3rd of December 2012, and it just so happens to be the 3rd of December 5 years later. So we're half a decade later and the price has jumped up from £63 to I think it's £94. So it's gone up by about £31 or so. So a 50% price increase, if you want to look at it that way. The stats for this knife is it's got an overall length of 7.1 inches or 18 centimetres. The blade length is 2.87 inches or 7.2 centimetres, and the cutting edge length is 2.5 inches or 6.35 centimetres, and its weight is 2.3 ounces or 64 grams. So it easily falls under my preferred everyday carry kind of knife weight of the 100 grams. It's under that kind of limit. Although even though the blade length is less than the 3 inches, you can't legally carry this in the UK without a very good reason, because it's a locking knife. Any knife that locks over here, it was ruled about 30 years ago that they count as fixed blades, and of course fixed blades are illegal to carry anyway. I don't want to get too bogged down in the UK knife law because I'd rather focus on the knife itself. It's made by Spyderco. Spyderco are definitely one of the best knife manufacturers. It's made in, I always call it Sexy City, but it's Seki City in Japan. They typically make Spyderco knives that have this VG10 blade steel. It's a good blade steel, sort of medium blade steel. I wouldn't say it's sort of top end as high as N690 or CPM S30V or anything like that, or even ZDP 189, but it is a very decent blade steel. It's not as hard on the roughness scale as the S30V, but you can get this very, very sharp. And for a lot of knives that are laminated, they typically have an edge of VG10 and then they have a harder blade steel inside it. That's what they can do with some of the sort of sandwiched knives. They have a softer steel for the edge and then a harder one inside. So these kind of Delicas came out in 1990, and they sort of came about as a result of their CQI, which is the constant quality improvement. Delicas and Enduras are one of the best-selling knives for Spyderco because of this very good blade steel and this FRN handle scales, bidirectional textured grip that really does help with any sort of cutting task that you may have. I mean, this is a 5-year-old knife, but you can see this handle scale still popping with colour after all that time. It's great that it's FRN. Some may feel that it feels cheaper, but actually it adds to the lightness of the whole blade itself. It doesn't have a full metal backspacer, which again adds to the lightness. Easy to maintain. You've got the Torx screws. You can relocate the pocket clip, tip up, tip down, oppositable, wherever you want to put that pocket clip you can do, so it's great for lefties. The back lock is very strong. Obviously all locks can fail. It's a shame that you can't sort of choke up on the blade. I mean, you can sort of choke up on the blade, but it doesn't have like a dedicated finger choil as say like the Paramilitary 2 or something like that. I'll do some size comparisons in a moment. Feels really nice in the hand. I'd classify this as a small knife. I wouldn't classify it as a medium knife or anything like that, or a large knife. If anything under 3 inches, I'd say is small. Fits in my hand very well, ergonomic wise. You can see there are partial sort of cutouts for, obviously it depends on your hand, doesn't it? I've got large hands and my 2 fingers fit nicely snug there, with your 4th and pinky finger resting on the rest of the blade. Nice set of jimping all along the scales and further up on the blade itself. Obviously you've got the Spidey hole. You disengage the lock by pressing down on the back lock, and it just goes. It's not the smoothest of opening and closing because of that back lock. As you can see, the retention sort of bar is affected by it opening and closing. However, it's a nice action and it does lock nice and solidly. You can flick it open if you wish. It's more difficult with your finger if you want to flip it open. You can use it reverse style if you wish, but I wouldn't trust it that much if you're putting too much force on. Again, I wouldn't use it to pry open. You don't want to damage the locking mechanism. But it's a great small locking knife, great backup blade. If you watch the series Walking Dead, one of the characters actually carries around I think it's a blue Endura for a while, if that means anything to you. But then again, in some scenes they use a load of Gerber products, so take that as you will. The other coloration I have here is the nice purple, kind of like a plum purple. I really like the colour. At one stage I did want to get them in all the colours. I still do want to get them in all the colours. I think they're lovely looking knives, and they're very decent blade steel too. But now at the price point of sort of £94, almost £100 each, I do think that they are a lot of money for what you're getting. Yes, the blade steel is great, and the handle scale, the way that they've formed that is fantastic too. But almost £100, I'd be wanting a much better premium steel and better handle scales. But as a backup blade, you know, you can't really fault this one. It's got great corrosion resistance, and the edge itself will retain that sharpness for a good while actually. And also that edge is easy to sharp. It's not as hard as S30V, so you're not going to be there longer trying to sharpen it, and you can get a very decent edge on it too. The only improvements I would probably make is just to make it a bit more comfortable, and add the finger choil to choke up, and maybe add some G10 scales. It being made in Seki City, Japan is fantastic. For the Enduras that I have as well, and the other knives that I've had from there, like the Super Blue, they've always been made of a very high quality, and long may that continue. So what I'll do now is I'll just show you some size comparisons. So next to the Endura, I have a blue Endura. You can see already the blade length is just that much bigger on the Endura. It's got a little bit of a drop as well on the tip. If anything, I'd say the Delica has more of a belly on it, and the Endura has more of a point. While the Delica is an excellent backup blade, the Endura could be a main blade, or even great for food preparation. You can throw one of these in the dishwasher absolutely fine. Survival wise, again, this would be great for food prep. It's got a very nice big chunky handle. You can attach some cord through it, not 550, but you can attach some to have a lanyard on there. And also they come in plenty of different colours and flavours, including an easy to open one that has an Emerson opener, whereby you pull it out of your pocket and the blade itself will deploy ready for you, so if you wanted to go down that route too. So that's the Endura next to the Delica. I do have a UK PK, which of course the blade is very, very similar in length. I think it's just a tiny bit longer, but that's the UK PK. I do find that the UK PK is more comfortable just because of the way the cutouts are on the handle and the fact that you can choke up. You can't really hold it just on the handle like you can with the Delica. You can only really hold it using that finger choil, and that's a good thing obviously because it's not a non-locking blade, so you want something there to resist any kind of disengagement of the little backspace of the backspacer. And then other knives that I'd probably compare it to is the Benchmade Mini Grip Tillion, this one. This has a longer blade, but a similar kind of blade steel, probably a little bit better, this 154CN. It's got a nice point to it too, and this wedge, but you are paying a premium. This is a bit more expensive. Also the handle scales, it doesn't have the full bitextural grips, and the pocket clip is only reversible. So left hand, right hand, tip up only. So if you wanted to tip down, then you'd be out of luck. But it does have the jimping, and it does have kind of a finger choil, but you're further away from the blade with this one. And it does have the axis lock, but this does feel a bit cheaper in the hand than the Delica, even though it's more expensive. Then the other sort of comparisons I'd want to go with the Delica is the Paramilitary 2, which is hands down better. Yeah, the blade steel is going to be harder to sharpen, but the edge is going to last longer. The blade itself is bigger, more of a belly, and I prefer the lock too, and the deployment and the handle, because you can hold it just on the grip with the G10, or you can choke up on it too. But you're paying a premium again, probably half as much on top, but it is made in America. And then the other little comparison I'll probably do is of the Kershaw Leek, just because it's a similar sort of size knife, but again, more expensive. But this one's got the Damascus blade steel. But similar sort of size knife. They're all the size comparisons I wanted to do. So in summary, you can't really go wrong with the Delicas. If you're buying it as a main blade, yeah, it's a little bit short, but it's going to be very useful, and the blade steel won't let you down. I watched a video where a guy left a VG10, I think it was a Delica, out in a pile of wood over winter, and he went back to it and it's fine. So hopefully that helps as well. They do it in the H1 salt, in the nitrogen steel, which means it's completely rust proof. Not resistant, rust proof. So if you live in like a humid area, or you use it down the beach or whatever, that's probably a better one to go for. But I am on the coast here, and I've had no issues with these Delicas. So as a backup blade, I can't think of a better kind of perfect blade. As a main blade, yeah, you probably want something with a bit more length to it, but its size and the fact that it comes in a range of colours definitely removes that intimidation factor that you might get from a typical knife that's on the market. Anyway, do you have a Spyderco Delica? If so, what colour do you have? And what's your best experiences of this knife? Please do put it in the comments below. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. The Emperor protects.